Still the issue 30 years later.
My dream was to be a psychologist.
What have you seen changed in your career? Greetings from Chicagoland. Hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of Munira's Musings. Our guest today is Martha Burich, all the way from Michigan. Hi Martha, welcome to Munira's Musings.
Hi Munira, thrilled to be here.
Thank you. So Martha is an educator and she's also an author. We do these episodes because we want to explore the unique stories of our incredible guests. And if you'd like to be a guest, go ahead and reach out. But we want to dive into what Martha wants to say. We know, for those who are listeners, each episode is designed to not only highlight their journey, but also to uncover the valuable insights that we can all learn from. It is through these experiences that we aim to inspire and educate the people out there, and we want to empower you in your own path. So if you enjoy these conversations, go ahead and bring on a friend and share this with your friend. Until then, sit back, tune in, and let's dive into the conversations that matter. So Martha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's start with Mom loved my brothers better. Let's just get that out there. And that pretty much shaped my life, whether it was true or not. So, and if you have more than one child, you are going to deal with sibling rivalry until you're 90, forever. So
that begs the question: is are you the only girl, and how many siblings are you, and what's your number?
Yeah, I had two older brothers, and I'm the only girl. Yes. And but not only my mother, but my stepmother loved them better too. Wait a minute. So I had to really grow up, and but it took me years. I had a conversation with one of my brothers. We were in our 30s, Munira. And I said, Mom loved you better. And he looked at me and he goes, no, she didn't. She loved you better. And then we were both arguing with one another. She did this for you. She did that for you. And at that moment, I thought to myself, maybe she did love us the same, but in different ways. And then I thought, nah, because it was too good an excuse.
I like that, because I think this my daughter has to listen to. He always thinks that I prefer my son better over her. But it's not true. We love each other, everybody the same. Only we showed affection in different ways.
Yeah, so, we're different people.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, that affected me for so long, but you know what? Sibling rivalry is also a good thing. If you talk with the many athletes, they'll say because they were trying to outdo their brothers or sisters, they became the athlete that they are, or they became the success that they are. So it has its good and its bad. And I was always interested in behavior. Long before I even started college, my dream was to be a psychologist, and behavior modification was my thing, and I learned early on all about how to change behavior, how to get rid of those bad habits, how to start getting a better schedule for your day, and making things so that you're not trapped in the cycle of bad behaviors. So that's been my pretty much my emphasis all my life. And so I became a child psychology professor, did that for 10 years, absolutely loved it. Oh, I got to tell you this story, Munira, listen to this one. One of my students, she told me how she spanked her 2-year-old because he put his shoes in the microwave. I said, why'd you spank him? Well, he did something bad. I said, he's seen you put a million things in that microwave. He was imitating you, and he got a spanking. So now I'm going to talk about parenting a little bit. You know what? A lot of times we punish our children and give them trouble when what they really need is explanations. And they're really, who makes mistakes? People who do things. Who makes the most mistakes? People who do new things.
Right. I like that. So let's go back to the first episode of when you got very much interested in behavioral health. Was that because of your mother's liking your brothers very much, or what was the first incident where you were very much aware of it?
I remember high school, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be the next Sigmund Freud.
Okay. So you
But,
were
but
fascinated by his work?
oh yeah, well, because he was the big thing back then when I was getting into that, and it wasn't until I got to college that I learned about behavior modification. But just the whole, how does the mind work and what makes us do things really, really enticed me. And so I went to college, but unfortunately, I flunked German. So I guess being a psychologist was out.
You had to have German for that?
Yes. Yeah, well, I didn't have to have German, but that's the language I chose. Of course, I chose the hardest language, and I just couldn't. And that was the first F of my life. Oh my goodness, Munira, I thought life was over. Oh, I failed.
Okay. So I like that. And then you had to, whatever you saw, you had to change things within you, right?
Mhm,
So
yeah.
how did that journey happen?
Well, that's a life.
Behavior modification doesn't just happen for other people. It has to start within us, right? Am I
And
correct?
it's a life. Yes, you're exactly right. But it's a lifelong journey. Every day, if you do it right, you're going to learn something new, whether it's small or large. And something else I always feel a need to tell people. Every day you're going to be aggravated. Let's face it. Okay. Life is, from the time you get out of the bed, it's like, should I get out of bed or not? No, I want to stay for 5 minutes. No, I want to, it's aggravation after aggravation. Now I have to do this. Now I have to wash the dishes. Now I have to make the bed. This isn't working. The computer's slow. The lights won't turn on. Blah, blah, blah. I had to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning last night because our sump pump was about to burn out. I could hear it going and going and going and going. I had to go and take care of that. So, life is a series of challenges that you either have to say, oh my goodness, I can't handle this, or I'm going to take care of this. If it is to be, as my mother told me so many times, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Okay. So you went to college, you learned behavior modification, you became a professor. What have you seen changed in your career?
Oh my goodness, things have changed so much. For one thing, when I was in school, if you didn't learn, it was your fault. Nowadays, if a child doesn't learn, it's everybody else's fault. And rather than looking for what's their motivation, what's the problem? Why aren't they learning? What's going on here? But then again, I was a teacher too for 16 years, a special education high school teacher. And I had a lot of children come through. And that I had to try to personalize instruction to each child.
And you did that?
As best I could, as absolutely best I could. Because each child needs something different, but that's very difficult. And you know how hard it is. You only have 1 or 2 children and adjusting things just to those 2. So here you're in a classroom of 20 and 30 children, and many of them have some really, really big needs. So number one, here's another. Number one is connection. Make a connection. Try to figure out what it is that child really wants and needs to help them, and then go from there.
Yesterday, I was listening to the radio, and they said that the reading, we in the United States, the reading level is very low, and they now have a new task force. They're going to create a new task force that is going to figure out why this is the problem. This has been a problem ever since I've been in the United States, because when I started my career, I was a Title I teacher's aide. And I first, as a parent, before I even became an aide, I was a volunteer, and I would go and help children read. And coming from a third world country, to me, that was a very significant issue, because why can't Americans read? And so it's still the issue 30 years later. So tell me why this is a problem, and why can't we just get this right?
Well, nowadays,
Political argument, but
so many people are on their devices, and they're just constantly consuming information, but not thinking about it and learning about it. But when you get down to the basics, learning to read is phonics. When they put out whole word reading, many people became dyslexic, confused, and are still poor readers because they don't know how to sound out a word. And we have to have that basic phonics. But also, did you know a child who's read to from the time they're born, by the time they're 1 year old, they know to turn the book right side up. So if the book is upside down, they know which way the letters go. They know how the picture should be oriented. And to many children today are not being read to because their parents aren't readers. And every generation we get fewer and fewer readers because books are being replaced by devices. And I like to hold things in my hand. I like the book in my hand. I like to write. They stopped teaching script. Children are just printing, and some of them, from the time they're in kindergarten, they're using a device and they're typing. Well, that's not beneficial to really helping the brain engage. Taking notes helps the brain engage. The same with analog clocks. Now everything's digital. People don't know how to read an analog clock. They don't understand 2:30, 2:45. But that 60 degrees, a lot of our world is based on 60 degrees, and it helps us to develop our thinking better when we understand that 60 degrees. So yes, a lot of things are just being dropped out and people don't understand, and you're seeing people jumping to conclusions without thinking. They hear some information, oh, that's bad, oh, that's good. No, let's think that through, and we're not getting that anymore.
But we heard that they're not teaching script or cursive writing because they don't have the funding. What does, is there a correlation there?
I don't understand about the funding. That doesn't make any sense. When you're in the classroom, that's time, math, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Reading, writing, and arithmetic are the basics. And now, if you don't read script, you can't read all the foundational documents.
Right.
Declaration of Independence, everything, all the foundational documents. So yeah, it's well, we better not get into that.
Right. So let's talk about, you were a teacher for 16 years. Now you are a psychologist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? Psychologist?
Well, now I teach parenting. I have a 4-week parenting course, and because parenting's the bottom line. How we raise our children. And when my son was 4, oh goodness, Munira, he was so spoiled. His dad and I, we didn't know what we were going to do. And he was spoiled because we loved him so much, and we thought that the way you show love is you never say no.
Right.
Mom.
Okay, so that's a good point. So many parents just shower the kids with stuff. So is that right? Is that wrong? What is your thoughts on that?
Right. Children don't even want stuff. They want your attention. They'll say they want stuff. If you give a baby, like a 1-year-old, you give them a choice between a fancy toy and a spatula that you use in the kitchen every day, they'll pick the spatula. You give them a chance. I remember when my son was a baby, one day I look over, he's playing in the diaper box. That's just how children are. And we don't have to give them all these fancy things, but what they really want is our attention. And unfortunately, in modern society, attention is at a premium. And a lot of children, in fact, one little child, more than one, I wish my mother looked at me the way she looks at her phone.
Okay. I can agree to that because that happens a lot. So you wrote this book. When did you write this book, and why did you write this book?
I wrote this book years ago and put it in a drawer. And it's only in the past couple of years I opened the drawer and there's the book there, and I thought, wait a minute, I think I'll do something with this. It's only 60 pages, Munira, and it's everything that I did to turn my son around. And it's nuggets like as soon as, rather than saying if you say, you know what, as soon as you pick up your toys, we can sit down and talk, or you can watch your movie. As soon as you put your seatbelt on, we can go. As soon as you put the dish in the sink, we can, or as soon as you sit at the table, wash your hands, we can have lunch. As soon as, it's called grandma's rule. That's a really big one. It'll change things. And look for the good. Oftentimes we forget, we correct our children, and connection before correction. Children have goals just like we do. All behavior has a goal. What's your child's goal?
Now, how do you figure that out?
It's how you feel. If you feel aggravated and annoyed, your child's goal is undue attention. So they're constantly wanting your attention. You're like, oh, again. Well, now their goal is attention. If you feel hurt, your child's goal is revenge. And a lot of times, parents who are very authoritarian, my way or the highway, their children try to get revenge on them all the time. And it's not the child isn't a bad child. They don't know how to get power otherwise. Then there are children who want power. And if you're feeling angry and if you're feeling angry, usually your child is wanting power because they feel powerless. So they want to be in control.
How old is your son today?
42.
And you wrote this book
He was
How
about
long-
10. He was about 10 when I wrote the
about
book.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
How has parenting changed from
Oh
the
my-
time your son was 10 and now the 10-year-olds that are now?
Well, it's absolutely gotten absolutely worse where it seems like you have to have attention on the child 24/7. And parents, may have to make the children the center point of their lives. You know what? 100 years ago, when we were on the farm, Mom and Dad didn't have time for your BS, okay? You got to get out there, feed the chickens, get the eggs, feed the cows, take care of this, make your bed, take care of your little sister. We didn't have time for all this, oh, now, sweetheart. Oh, now, honey, how do you feel today? No, work had to get done. So nowadays, we're so into feelings. Feelings, okay, we have to acknowledge them, but they're not the bottom line. The bottom line is we need to contribute. Families are the basic units of society. A well-working family, a happy family, helps to make a happy, good functioning society. Well, when we have all these families that are absolutely torn apart, don't know what's going on, the children are running the household, we have miserable societies, and we have people that grow up who do not understand there are boundaries and other people. We must take other people into consideration before we behave. You stop acting like His Majesty the baby. That's not working very well. It's time to grow up.
Have you made any changes to the book?
No, the book is 60 pages and it is nothing but meat. It is just nothing but do this, do that, do this, do that. And Jack Canfield, who, the guy that did Chicken Soup for the Soul, he endorsed my book. The entire back cover is Jack's endorsement. And Jack said about my book, this book has the potential to change the lives of families worldwide. And one teacher, she just used one technique in the book, and that is look for what they're doing right. So if a child's running, you don't say stop running, you say walk. So this teacher changed, she said, this is the worst class I've ever had, kindergarten teacher. She used just that one technique in the book, which is tell them what you do want, not what you don't want. Totally changed her classroom. She said, I have a brand new classroom just because now I tell them what I do want. When you go to the grocery store with your child, oh my goodness, that's a playground. You say to the child, look, you need to see me every minute, I need to see you. If you can't see me, I can't see you, you have to sit in the cart because I can't let you, I'm not going to run around the store looking for you. So then when the child runs off, and they will, it's a wonderful playground. You don't get mad, you just go, I see you decided to sit in the cart. Boom. Hey, where's the bananas? Show me this, show me that. Keep them busy.
Okay, all right. So you have this book. Now, what are the next steps with the book?
Well, the book is up on Amazon, and I'm now promoting the book, trying to get it really out there. It's also a Kindle version. I want to start doing the Audible so that we have it, the listening version, and I need to get it into different languages. I'd like to start with Italian because that's where my family comes from, Italy. So yes, and then also I have 2 more books in the works. I have one finished for teachers. And then I have one halfway done. I lost 50 pounds walking my dog. So I called it Walking to Win. And so I've got that halfway done. So yes, those are my next steps, getting all that done. And then teaching the parenting lessons because you know what, 4 weeks, we're going to get that child, we're going to get that worst behavior out of the way, and we're going to get the child cooperating and the family working together.
So you are sure that this works in 4 weeks?
We're going to, yes. Oh yeah, within 4 weeks, if you do what I tell you, you are going to make changes in your house. Definitely.
What kind of customers or clients do you see? Like what kind of problems would they have?
Well, letting the child run the household, the child not being cooperative. No, I'm not going to do that. You need to take the trash out. Yeah, I will. Yeah, pretty soon. Constantly nagging at the kids. Stop nagging. Put up a note. Put up a sign. Trash needs to go out by 1 p.m. If not, you owe me $5. I mean, there's always got to be a consequence. If I have to take the trash out, you have to pay me. It comes out of your allowance. There's always got to be a consequence. If you don't go to work, what's going to happen? You're not going to get paid, right? So we all have our jobs in our homes because that is what makes families and make society work. We all need to take responsibility and work together. I suggest every family work together on the weekends or whenever. You know, it's time to clean the house. We do that every Saturday at 10 a.m. or whatever. Okay, everybody's got their jobs.
And how little are the kids do they have to be when you start working on this?
Well, you know what? A 1-year-old can match socks. They can't flip them over, but they can put the blue sock with the blue sock. A 1-year-old, 6-month-old can hand you his little sippy cup. You start from the beginning. You know, I remember back when I was pregnant, Munira, a man who already had a child, he said to me, I'm going to give you some advice and I hope you take it. Never do for your child what they could do for themselves. If you're at the table and the child says, where's the salt? You say it's over in the cabinet. Don't get up yourself. If the child can do it himself, have him get up and do it, or her. Because every time we do something for someone else, we're robbing them of their ability to do it themselves, and also their realization that if it is to be, it's up to me.
So where do people find you, Martha?
Well, I have a website, marthaburich.com. And you know, also I have a Facebook group, Mastering Child Behavior. And on my Facebook group, you can download a free parenting quiz. It tells you, with that quiz, you'll learn your dominant parenting style and how it affects your children's behavior. So we have my website, marthaburich.com. We have Mastering Child Behavior Facebook group. Also, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. You cannot find me. Wait a minute.
So let me ask you this.
And YouTube.
For a woman who has a child whose baby is 35, do you think this parenting book can help me change their habits?
Well, first off, we have to be careful when we're wanting to change other people, but communication is communication, no matter what age, and we're all big babies. You know, I'm not going to say how old I am, but I am a big baby. And yes, all the techniques in my book work for big babies too.
Okay, all right. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a woman who has worked with children and is very, very passionate about what she does. She's willing to help your children and your family unit become one whole segment, right? And work as a well-oiled machine. And you can find her on marthaburich.com, right? Am I
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
Burich.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found valuable insights from this conversation. If you did, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe, so that you never miss an update. And if this resonated with you, please leave a review and share it with somebody who could benefit from it. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning. We'll bring you another guest next week, and we'll talk about their journey to their passion. Until then, see you. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks, Martha.
Bye. Thanks, Munira. Great fun.